Welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be doing some body work to this Nissan Altima. This is a 2011 Nissan Altima that I had a little accident in. Backed up into a tree, and you can see I put a hole in the bumper as well as cracked the bumper here and here. So this whole rear section of the bumper is damaged. I thought about bondoing this, but I don't have any experience with bondo. So instead I decided to buy a bumper off Amazon that you see here. Also have some regular wear on the bumper here where this is starting to fade and scratch, so I thought I would just go ahead and buy a bumper. It really wasn't too expensive to buy a bumper. I got this one off Amazon for about $115. I'll put the product link in the description if this works out. But the interesting thing, and it did say that it would come like this, open up the box and that bumper is folded. So not really sure how a folded bumper is going to go onto a car, but we're going to take this thing out and we'll see. I got the bumper unpackaged and it looks okay. It's pretty flimsy plastic. The reason it was able to be folded was because it was so thin. I'm just gonna leave it in this position for a couple hours or maybe a day or two just so that it keeps this shape. Now the good thing about this bumper, it did come primed, so I have some paint on the way and I'll be able to paint right over it. Got everything set up and now I'm ready to paint. I used the packaging that came with the bumper to set it up on and cover my garage floor. This setup would probably make an auto body guy scream, but it's the best I can do. Now I'm using the Dupli-Color Perfect Match paint. You can get this at most auto stores, but they may not have your right color. So I got this off Amazon in a package. I'll see how far it goes. Down to pick your correct color. This one's K23 for this Nissan Altima. They have all colors, but I'll show you how you go check your color. If you open up your door, look around, you'll see a sticker with all the car model information. If you look, for example, here, it says the color is K23. So that's what I matched on my spray paint. So that was my first layer of paint. I used about 3/4 of the can. Now I didn't want to go too heavy and start getting runs. The key here, just go light, hit a very light base coat, and then I'll come back and hit multiple coats throughout the day. So after my second coating, I was noticing I was getting a pretty rough texture on this bumper. I think that was partially due to emptying the can. You can hear I ran this to empty. I would not recommend doing that because once you get towards the bottom of the can, it starts getting thick and spotty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this down with 1000 grit sandpaper. I'm going to sand it wet and do a little patch, sand it wet, and then come back with my other cans of paint. I now got 3 coats of paint on this bumper and it's looking pretty good, but you can see there's some places where it's kind of rough and you can almost see those places if you look real close, some different discoloration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this microfiber cloth, wipe it down really good, and I'm going to come back with some 1000 grit wet sandpaper, increasing between 1000, 1200, and 1500 grit sandpaper. Get a real nice smooth finish. I'm starting, you can kind of see the reflection, but I want this really smooth, and then I'm going to apply one final coat, and probably going to go over with an even finer sandpaper at the very end. Get it good and dry. You can kind of feel too, if you run your hand across and you'll get a rough spot, hit that again with some sandpaper. Right now I'm doing my final wet sanding. I started off with about 1500, 1200 grit sandpaper, and we'll finish up with 2000 or even 2500 grit sandpaper. And what I'm doing is I'm spraying it wet, and I'm just almost polishing it with the sandpaper, filling it around. By this point I can feel around, and if I hit a snag on my sandpaper, I'll hit that area a little bit, but just kind of rubbing it down to get it nice and smooth. You don't want to sand all that paint off that you just did. Be careful around these corners here, those will wear down if you sand too much. But we'll do that, then wipe it all out. Get it good and dry. You can kind of feel too, if you run your hand across and you'll get a rough spot, hit that again with some sandpaper. Now that I got the paint how I like it, I'm going to come back and spray it with some of this Dupli-Color 1K clear coat. I'm spraying one layer at a time, taking breaks about every 10 minutes or so. Take out your tail light. There's a few screws there. This will allow you access to this fastener right here. You have 4 bolts, 10 millimeter, 1, 2, and then you have this fastener here. It's also 10 millimeter on each side. You'll take that out. You're also going to take out any body clips that you see, like right here would be a body clip. Be prepared to replace those because you may break a few. And then this along here should pop in. And anywhere you see on the bottom, you'll probably have some body clips right here and right here. And then along the bottom, here's the final result of the paint job and bumper replacement. I'm really pleased with the results. You can see the color match turned out very well. I can't tell much of a difference between the new bumper and the existing color on the car, so the paint match turned out great. It wasn't that hard to replace the bumper, and I did break off a few tabs, so I'll have to get some replacements. But all in all, I'm really pleased. If I had to do it over again, I would definitely use a primer base coat. So this took 4 cans of paint. I sanded in between each one, and then I applied 1 can of gloss. If I had to do it again, I would use the primer, and then I could probably get away with 2 cans of paint. Then I'd also put on 2 coats of gloss, or 2 cans of gloss. So the only difference is you can kind of tell that the trunk has a little more shine than the bumper. But if I put another can of clear coat, it probably would have been a pretty close match. But all in all, I think it turned out pretty well. So if I can do this without any experience, surely you can too.